Earlier today, the Energy Discrimination Elimination Act went into effect in the state of Oklahoma. Now, this law requires the state to no longer conduct business with financial firms that discriminate against fossil fuel companies. Now, frankly, I think this is reasonable, not only as an investment strategy, but also so that it does not inflict harm on the many Oklahoma citizens working in the oil and gas industry. Look, teenagers probably don't do this today, but when I was in high school growing up in Oklahoma, I worked in the oil field during the summers. It's a great place to learn a skill, and also it's a great place to learn you want to get an education. Now, this is a big deal in the state of Oklahoma. In Texas, it's a big deal, even my home state of Louisiana. But in Oklahoma, the top three industries in the state are related to energy. You've got oil and gas extraction. You've got the petroleum refinery business. You've got gasoline and petroleum wholesaling. Those are the top three. So this makes perfect sense. Joining me now to discuss this and more is the governor of the state of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt. Governor, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Oh, great to be with you, Tony. Thanks so much for having me here and spending a few minutes with us today.
So let me just ask you, why was this the right move for Oklahoma to make?
Well, as governor of Oklahoma, I'm going to protect the assets in our state, number one. So like you said, the oil and gas industry, all of the jobs, and the attack from the Biden administration and some of these policies on our way of life, and I'm going to push back. But from just an investment standpoint, if you think about every state has pension plans for police and fire and state employees and teachers. And one of our policies here was we found out that some of these investment dollars were going to ESG type lending, which is really a social governance, check the box type of a philosophy versus earning a return for the shareholders. So we said we're not going to invest in companies that their goal is not to earn a return, but more just to kind of check some box. So we think that's ridiculous. And then also just to protect our way of life and our oil and gas industry, that was the other reason we did it. But if you think big picture, all the people watching, the reason we have 40-year highs in inflation is because of some of the Biden's policy and trying to put their thumb on certain industries and pick winners and losers and tax the oil and gas industry. And their solution is then doesn't make a lot of sense to us in Oklahoma, but they want to buy oil from Russia or OPEC because demand is the same. So all they're doing is just choking off supply, and they're causing everything to cost more money at the gas pump or the grocery store.
So let me correct me if I'm wrong, but as I see this, what you've said is that you have these policies taking the money that you invest from the state of Oklahoma in, say, state retirement accounts, and it's with firms that are actually pushing policies that hurt the very individuals who they're protecting their retirement dollars. Is that right?
That's pretty much true. We're using our tax dollars in our pension funds that we're setting aside for the benefit and the retirement of our state employees and our police and our fire. And then we're turning around and investing in companies that then turn around and attack our state. So it's just kind of a circular deal that's not good for the state of Oklahoma. So as governor and as a businessman, we're going to put a stop to this, and it makes perfect common sense to all the citizens of Oklahoma. ESG lending is some kind of radical social, governance model that has nothing to do with actually investing for the shareholders and to make a profit. Right. We are a capitalist society, and now you've introduced something that doesn't make sense to a free market type system.
Well, and as you said, the very individuals who have entrusted their money into this system, they're having their dollars used against them in many cases, contravening their values, but depriving them of the profits that they should get by focusing solely on the investment and earning a return on those dollars. We had a week or so ago, we had the treasurer of the state of Louisiana doing the same thing. They've removed about $800 million, I believe, from BlackRock because of this same issue. So I think you see more and more states that are, focused on making sure they get a return for their citizens, as opposed to allowing these, woke corporations to take their money and run with it. Governor, I want to play this clip of President Biden. You mentioned him and the war on energy. Yesterday, he had a meeting in the White House, and he was making these statements. I want to play clip number 2, please.
It's time for these companies to stop war profiteering, meet their responsibilities to this country, and give the American people a break and still do very well.
The president's made it extremely hard for those in the fossil fuel industry to make it. And as you said, we're a capitalist society. You know what? I'm not angry because people make a profit, especially given all the obstacles they've got to go over. But it seems like the president is at war with the energy industry.
That sounds a lot like socialism to me. And Lord help us when a president of the United States starts attacking certain industries and certain for-profit companies for earning a profit. And you got to remember, there's millions of shareholders, millions, and pension funds involved in investing billions of dollars in capital in our energy space. And for the president of the United States to say we're going to have a windfall tax on that, what's the next step for them to take over private industries? This is a slippery slope. And I think, it's an attack today on this industry. Tomorrow it could be on a different industry. And that's nonsense. This is why it's so important that we get out and vote on November 8th, is because the Biden administration's attack on our way of life and the attack on energy and what we need to have a safe and secure country is unbelievable to us. It makes no common sense, and we won't stand for it in Oklahoma, and we need to be pushing this out and exposing this for what it is. So I appreciate you being on here. We're a free market society. We know that's the greatest. We've got the greatest middle class in the world, and we're trying to attack that right now by putting their thumb on the scale and causing everything to go up in pricing, and we just think that's ridiculous.
Governor Stitt, I'm going to ask you to kind of educate our viewers and listeners for just a moment. Being you're in a state, oil-producing state, big deal to your state. When the president makes comments like this, most people don't realize that what you pay at the pump, a lot of that's based on speculation. From a standpoint of, if you're going to go out and take the tremendous risk to drill a well, and I remember making up wellheads and working out in the oil field, you incur a lot of risk, because that might be a dry hole. It may not work. And so if you're going to be facing additional regulation and you've got a hostile administration, you're going to be less likely to take risk, which means the supply stays low and therefore the price goes up. So if the president really wants to help the American family in getting affordable energy, he would be encouraging the energy industry to make a profit by taking the risk and going out there and doing what they do.
Yeah, I mean, you said it very well. I think it's the bigger picture that people understand is really supply and demand. And demand is the same, right? We still are heating our homes and our businesses, driving our kids to school, driving to work, driving our kids to football practice. Demand is the same. And so when you choke off supply, like this administration has done, the price is going to go up. And everything that's delivered at the grocery store and all of our goods and our supply chain is all driven here. And so that is what's causing 40-year highs in inflation. So again, it is an attack on the energy independence of America, which is a national security concern. And their hope is that Russia will produce more oil, or OPEC, to create that equilibrium of supply and demand where prices will come back down, instead of unleashing Oklahoma companies and Texas companies and Pennsylvania companies and North Dakota companies to meet the needs of Americans. And what's so unbelievable to us is, since 1973, every president of the United States, whether they're Republican or Democrat, they all had an energy independence policy. In other words, let's meet the needs of Americans with our own resources, until this administration. And it's a flat out an attack from the Biden administration and a certain wing of his party to try to attack it and cancel the Keystone Pipeline, make it impossible to drill on federal lands. They've just instituted new tax on the oil and gas industry. And I like to brag on Oklahoma's all of the above approach. We are number 4 in oil production, number 3 in natural gas. But what people don't realize about Oklahoma, we're number 2 in wind energy production. We've got some of the cleanest water, cleanest air in the country. And that's led to the cheapest electricity cost, the top 10 at least over the last 14 quarters in the state of Oklahoma. We've been, I think, number 1 cheapest 11 out of the last 14 quarters. That's a huge advantage for our state. People are moving now to our state. Companies are moving here because we have a reliable energy grid, and they know that we're not going to have rolling blackouts like they have in some other states. So we need more of everything in America. Oklahoma's leading the way, and this administration is not having honest conversations about that.
So, Governor, just to be clear, you're saying we can do both. We can be green, and we can use the resources that God has put into the earth for us as well.
Well, sure. And if you look at all of the products and the byproducts, then everything that's made out of petroleum products, tires that we drive on, I mean, you can go through the list. I mean, just Google it. You're not having an honest conversation if you're not talking about oil and natural gas. Natural gas has actually contributed more to reducing admission rates than anything. Oklahoma's reduced our admissions 3 times the national average because of clean burning natural gas. I just signed an MOU with the governor of Arkansas and Louisiana to get a hydrogen hub here to Oklahoma. So we're looking at green hydrogen, blue hydrogen. We need more of everything is kind of my approach. In Europe right now, they're paying about $180 a kilowatt hour for electricity, where Oklahoma is around $9 a kilowatt hour. So we have in the United States, we have a huge advantage right now, but it's not going to always be that way if we let the Biden administration continue to attack and not have an honest conversation about what Americans need and what they're using to be successful.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that approach. I like the opportunity to harness the wind, to use water, whatever we can to generate that power, but to do so in a smart manner that does not hurt the American family in the process. You said something a moment ago about, kind of the president, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I heard you say that this is kind of a socialist view of controlling business. And I think these two issues run in tandem, where you have this socialist Marxist view of the economy, but also a hostility toward traditional values, the family, and religion. Now, you've been leading really the country from the state of Oklahoma when it comes to the sanctity of human life and advancing those value sets. I think it's hard to escape the fact that the two come together. You embrace the capitalist model of economic development and growth, and a set of moral principles. Whereas when you want to control government, you see often the family and religion as a hostile force.
Well, thank you. We're leading, and we're not shy about it at all in Oklahoma. And we believe in traditional family values. And we're number 11 in the country right now, not per capita, but true numbers of people moving to our state. And the state that we have more people moving from than anywhere else is California. And when they get here, they tell me they're moving because of our traditional family values, our pro-freedom policies. People are so tired of the government dictating and mandating and telling them what to do and being involved in every aspect of our life. We believe in smaller government, lower taxes. Ronald Reagan said it best when he would say, the government is not the solution. Most of the time, the government is the problem. And when Biden tries to get involved and wants to do this windfall tax on oil and gas or whatever craziness they're talking about, there's always consequences. We can look at history. We can look at all the consequences. When the government tries to fix one thing, they break 25 other things. You let the free market work, you deregulate, and that actually helps the middle class. That helps competition. That drives down prices. We know that from a business perspective. And so that's why we're unashamed at talking about some of the smaller government less regulation that we need in Oklahoma and also, frankly, in the United States.
Well, Governor, we're out of time, but I am so grateful that you took the time to join us today, and I want to commend you on the great job you're doing there in the Sooner State.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. Would love to come back anytime.